movement in and out of cell, in and out of cell. So there are three chapters that I have covered in my previous videos, that is enzyme, cell and biological molecules. There are three chapters, 1, 2, 3, cell, enzymes and biological molecules. I have done their past papers practice separately from the videos. I have posted all the videos about these chapters. Now we are moving on the fourth chapter. That is movement in and out of cell. I have covered the whole ATP part of these two chapters, which is enzymes and biological molecules, whereas the ATP topic of cells is left. I will be covering it soon or later. So let's jump onto the topic of movement in and out of cell. Before giving you any information, I want you to remember when you were in like grade 2 or grade 3, you might have passed through or skimmed through the text which has the word transport, and your teacher might have guided you the meaning of transport. Transport is basically movement from one place to another. For example, I am moving from this place to that, or I'm moving from Karachi to Lahore. That is transport. That is my movement from one place to another place. So that's known as transport. So take an example of an animal cell. This is ribosome, which makes protein. This is amino acid, and this amino acid has to travel to that ribosomes. So there is a process of transport behind it. Like for my transport, I'm using my legs. For the transfer of from Karachi to Lahore, I have three process of transports. I could use railway, I could go through car, I can go through plane. So I have three ways of transport. Same is the way over here. There are also two ways of transport from the amino acids to that ribosomes. So what are those two ways? We will study in this video. Alright, so first kind is known as passive transport. Passive transport. The second type is known as active transport. These are the two ways of transport. What's the difference? What's their characteristics? What's their properties? What's the rules? What's the terms? What's the requirements? We all will study that together in this video. So passive transport basically means a transport that doesn't require any energy. So are there any real life examples? Yes, we have a real life example. For example, this is a mountain. This is a hill, for example. I have my ball over the hill, and this ball rolls and roll down the hill. Does it require any of the energy? No, it does not require any energy. This ball is moving by its own. It does not require any energy. Whereas I am on the first floor of my house and I have to transport my briefcase to the 7th floor of my house. I have to travel this briefcase from on the ground floor to the 5th floor of the building. I require energy to lift that briefcase and take it to my apartment, which is on 1st floor, by using stairs. So I am requiring energy. I need energy for this transport. For this transport, I do not require any energy. So a process that does not require any energy is known as passive transport. So let's write the definition. The type of transport that does not require any energy. any energy is called as any transport. Either the transport is by walk, either the transport is by rolling, either the transport is by legs, either the transport is by plane. Any process that does not require any energy, that is called as passive transport. There's the example. A ball rolling down the hill does not need energy to roll down the hill. It's a slope, the ball will roll. Whereas if I have a car and it's a slope, I have to give the car some energy to go up the slope. So that is the process in which it requires energy. So this process does not require any energy, whereas this process requires energy. This type of transport, this type of transport does require energy. So this process needs energy to do its function. Just like the example of the suitcase, I have to take my suitcase from the first floor to the fifth floor. I need to lift it. I should have the energy to lift it and walk through the stairs and travel it through 5 floors to my apartment. So that's what is called as active transport, and any process that does not require any energy, that is known as passive transport. So a transport of amino acid to the ribosome, if it requires energy, then it's active transport. If this process does not require any energy, then it's passive transport. If the examiner asks you, what is the process in which energy is required, which type of process requires energy, so you would say active transport. Examiner rolls the question around and asks you, if an amino acid has to travel through the cell membrane to the ribosome and it does not require any energy, then what is the process name? It is simply passive transport in another kind of question. So let's hop on the second type. The particles move from the region of higher concentration to low concentration. That doesn't make any of the sense. This is a room. This is second room. These dots represent people. This dot represents people. There are like 100 of people jam-packed in this room. There is no room for one person in it. And this second room has only 10 people. Only 10 people. The principal orders, like the principal says, for these 10 students to go in this room of 100 students. Now it requires energy for them to push the others and make them fix in the room. So that requires energy. That's another thing. It requires energy from the region of low concentration to higher concentration. What is concentration? Amount of particles in one place. What is concentration? Amount of particles in one place is concentration. So there are comparatively to the room 1, there are low concentration of students. There are few students in room 2, which are 10, and this is 100. So these 10 students were ordered to travel to go and fix themselves in the room 1, which already has 100 students. Now those students have to push the students that were already present in that room to make them fix themselves feasibly in the room. So that process requires energy. That process requirement is from low to high concentration. Now listen. Now the principal changed her orders and says for these 100 students to go and make themselves fix in room 2. Now there are only 10 students, no need for pushing, so no energy is required. They just need to walk and enter that room. There's plenty of space. Only 10 students in that room. So they can fix themselves, no energy required, and the movement is from low to high was the previous one. This time it is from high to low. Alright, let's write, then I will explain again. What is passive transport? Movement of particles from a region of higher concentration to low concentration. That is so called as passive transport, whereas this is transfer movement of particles from a region of lower to higher concentration. Alright, now let me give you an example of a perfume spray that is the traditional example of the teachers. They say if I spray perfume over this area, it has a higher concentration, means there are many thousands of billions of particles in this circle. I release them in the air. So these particles travel to this part of the room where there are only like 4 particles. So it moves from a region of high concentration where there is many thousands of particles to a region of low concentration where there is only 3 to 4 particles. So what is the movement from the higher to lower is called as active transport. From lower to higher is called as active transport. Passive transport is the process which does not require any energy. No energy is required. For example, if I spray the perfume from this room corner, it will spread to that room corner where there is billions of particles to a region of low concentration of particles, where there are few particles comparatively to the region where I have sprayed. Let's talk about the third point. Third point is where we talk about logics. Third is about the passive transport is down the concentration gradient. Down the concentration gradient. What is gradient? What is concentration? What is down? Down means moving towards lower to higher to lower, means the concentration is getting low in this region. Gradient means the difference from one place to another. Concentration means amount of particles. Now what it means collectively. Down the concentration gradient means the amount of particles in this place and over this place. So it says down the concentration, means there are higher concentration of oxygen particles here. These oxygen particles is moving to this area where there are only 4 oxygen particles. So it's moving from higher to lower. That is what we called as down the concentration gradient. Whereas passive transport is what we called as up the concentration gradient. Up the concentration gradient. Which means here are a little particles, very little particles, and there is a lot of particles. So these small particles is also going to that big area where there is. I will give you an example. I told you in the topic of specialized cell, this is a root hair cell. The particles of what called as minerals are present here, whereas the concentration of particles over here is much more higher than the minerals present in the soil. So these 20 moves to 30 mineral particles which is present inside the cell. So this is up the concentration gradient, means these are traveling against the concentration gradient. Do you understand what I say? This is a root hair cell. It has billions, millions, 30 mineral particles, nitrogen particles in it, which is required for plant growth, whereas in the soil there is only 20. Cell needs 50. So cell will absorb these low concentration where there is only 20. Cell absorbs them where it has already 30. So it's moving from low to high. So this is up the concentration gradient. Fourth process name. Fourth characteristic is where you all let to answers, or if you answers, examiner don't give you the marks because you don't know the appropriate name. So ATP is not hydrolyzed. What is hydrolyzed? What the heck is ATP? ATP means it is a source of energy. I have a lot of energy. I don't know where to put it. So my cell stores that energy in form of few particles, which is called as ATP. When I need ATP, it is broken down, the energy is used. For example, if you have saw a cell battery which you put in your remote controls or whatsoever, that cell battery has stored energy. That is the same characteristic of ATP. It stores energy, whereas ATP also stores energy. ATP stores energy, cell stores energy. When we need that energy, that cell is used, whereas when energy is required, that ATP is used by the cell. What I mean by hydrolyzed? Broken down by water. Alright, you might have been taught in your school that ATP is broken down by water. Examiner don't want these vague answer. Examiner needs pure examiner wordings. They want scientific words. Hydrolyze means breaking down of ATP while using water. If I am breaking an enzyme using water, I will say enzyme is hydrolyzed. I am saying hormone is hydrolyzed, I mean hormone is broken down by water. If I will say glucose is hydrolyzed, I will say glucose is broken down by water. If I say hemoglobin is hydrolyzed, so I mean hemoglobin is breaking down into Fe3 positive by water. So hydrolyze means it is broken down. ATP means it is a battery. It is a stored energy. For example, this part of my hand has a lot of energy. It don't know where to use it. So it stores my energy in small particles inside my hand, and when I need that energy to lift something, that ATP molecules will be broken down. So ATP is hydrolyzed means ATP is broken down with the help of water. ATP is hydrolyzed means to get the energy, cell does not use the energy that you eat, it uses the stored energy. It does not use the energy that you just ate, it uses the energy that is stored already inside your cell. ATP is hydrolyzed is not hydrolyzed means ATP is does not used, ATP is does not required, energy is does not required, ATP is not broken down, this process is free of charge, take it. Whereas ATP is hydrolyzed, ATP is used, ATP is broken down, energy is released, energy is used. I hope you understand this topic. I'll explain it in the most easiest way I could possibly. Thank you for watching my video. Bye guys.